The twilight hung heavy over the private hangar, a cavernous sanctuary of steel and shadow where a $60 million Gulfstream G650ER rested, its polished fuselage glinting like a predator's eye in the fading light. The air inside was thick with the scent of fresh mahogany, buttery leather, and the faint tang of jet fuel, a cocoon of opulence that shielded its passengers from the world below. This was no ordinary aircraft. It was a throne in the sky, a vessel of power where the elite could soar above scrutiny, their secrets locked within its sleek, soundproofed walls. But tonight, the illusion of invincibility shattered. Federal agents swarmed the tarmac, their boots echoing like a drumbeat of reckoning, their flashlights slicing through the darkness. This was no routine check. The jet, once a symbol of untouchable grandeur, was now a crime scene, a glittering vault of secrets poised to unravel an empire. Sean Combs, known to the world as Diddy, Puff Daddy, or simply a titan of music and culture, had built his legacy on a foundation of grit, charisma, and unrelenting ambition. From the crack sidewalks of Harlem to the penthouse suites of Manhattan, he'd clawed his way to the pinnacle of fame, his name a shorthand for wealth, influence, and excess. His private jet wasn't merely a mode of transport. It was a statement, a declaration of dominance. Its custom interiors, hand-woven carpets, polished wood paneling, ambient lighting that cast a golden glow over plush leather seats, were designed for power moves, for sealing deals over champagne at 40,000 feet, for living a life where the rules of the earthbound didn't apply. Or so it seemed, but beneath the polished veneer, whispers had begun to stir, faint at first, like the rustle of leaves before a storm. They spoke of freakoffs, exclusive, high-security gatherings cloaked in secrecy, where guest lists were as meticulously curated as the jet's interiors. These weren't the glitzy galas of Hollywood's red carpets. According to allegations, these events plunged into a shadowy realm where decadence gave way to something darker, where the boundaries of consent blurred under the weight of power. At the heart of it all was Diddy's jet, a vessel that allegedly ferried women to these clandestine affairs, its private status a shield against the prying eyes of commercial travel. The Gulfstream's ability to bypass TSA lines, public manifests, and routine oversight made it the perfect tool for discretion, or, as investigators now suspected, for deception. The raid on the hangar wasn't a spur-of-the-moment operation. For months, federal investigators had been piecing together a mosaic of evidence that spanned continents and decades. Flight logs told a cryptic story: short, unexplained trips to private estates in the Caribbean, secluded resorts in Miami, and hidden penthouses in Los Angeles. Passenger counts didn't add up, manifests listing 3 names when eyewitnesses swore 10 had boarded. One flight, in particular, stood out, a late-night departure to a private island, its manifest suspiciously sparse, yet whispers from ground crew hinted at a plane packed with unfamiliar faces. The jet's allure lay in its privacy, a bubble where no questions were asked, no records were public, and no trails were left. But that same veil of secrecy had become its undoing, drawing the attention of law enforcement determined to pierce the facade. As agents swept through the jet's interior, their search was surgical, deliberate. They weren't looking for mechanical flaws or misplaced logbooks. They were hunting for evidence, digital records, handwritten notes, anything that could tie the aircraft to allegations of trafficking and coercion. Text messages uncovered between crew members and event organizers revealed coded language, special guests, to be delivered to, private drop-offs, destinations referred to only by initials or vague descriptors. Handwritten notes, allegedly left behind by the jet's staff, detailed discrepancies in passenger counts and cryptic references to events that aligned with the rumored freakoffs. One note, scrawled on a cocktail napkin tucked beneath a seat, read simply, 8 for the island, 3 on paper. The deeper investigators dug, the more troubling the picture became. The allegations painted a chilling portrait, one that cut to the core of power and exploitation. Women, some reportedly under obligations that blurred the line between choice and coercion, were said to have been transported to these gatherings, their roles at the events raising questions that lingered like a bitter aftertaste. At the center of the storm was Cassie Ventura, Diddy's former partner, whose testimony would become the linchpin of the case. In a courtroom hushed to a pin-drop silence, she took the stand, her pregnant belly a quiet counterpoint to the weight of her words. With a voice steady yet haunting, she described a decade of abuse and manipulation, a world where love and fear were indistinguishable. She spoke of the freakoffs, orchestrated by Diddy with meticulous control, down to the outfits she was made to wear, purchased from sex shops and approved by his discerning eye. The events began with candles, she said, before escalating to studio lighting, a stage set for acts that left her feeling worthless, hollow, and trapped. "I wanted to make him happy," she said, her voice cracking only once. "But I didn't want to do it." The jet wasn't merely a backdrop. It was a character in this unfolding drama, a symbol of unchecked power that had enabled a network to thrive in the shadows. Investigators believed it had been used to transport women to locations where these exclusive parties took place, private estates in the Caribbean, where turquoise waters masked hidden agendas, secluded resorts in Miami, where the pulse of nightlife drowned out whispers of wrongdoing, and penthouses in Los Angeles, where the city's glitter hid darker truths. Each destination was a node in a web of secrecy, and the jet was the thread weaving them together. But as the evidence mounted, a question lingered: was Diddy the mastermind, orchestrating every detail with cold precision, or was he a cog in a much larger machine, a player in a system that stretched far beyond his reach? The investigation widened, its scope sprawling like the jet's transcontinental flights. Names surfaced: business associates who booked the travel, event planners who coordinated the gatherings, even other celebrities who may have attended or used the jet's discreet services. Financial records were dissected with forensic precision, revealing payments to individuals allegedly involved in the logistics of the freakoffs. One transaction, a $50,000 wire transfer labeled simply "consulting," raised eyebrows when investigators linked it to a known event organizer with ties to Diddy's inner circle. Text messages and emails uncovered a level of organization that went beyond casual indulgence, hinting at a system designed to evade detection. "Keep it off the books," one message read, sent from a burner phone to a jet crew member. Another email, buried in a chain of mundane flight confirmations, instructed, "No names, just numbers." The jet's operational costs, maintenance fees, pilot salaries, even fuel invoices, were scrutinized, each line item a potential clue in a sprawling network of influence and exploitation. Diddy's arrest sent shockwaves through the entertainment world, a seismic event that reverberated from Hollywood to Harlem. The man who'd once commanded stages with a swagger that defined an era now sat in a cell, his tailored suits replaced by a standard-issue jumpsuit that hung loosely on his frame. Insiders described a man grappling with his fall from grace, his usual charisma subdued by the weight of the accusations. He was cooperative, they said, but moments of frustration broke through, sharp words to officers, a dismissive remark about the jet's manifests, a flicker of defiance in his eyes that suggested he still believed he could outmaneuver the system. In the confines of the detention center, his star power was irrelevant. Whispers from other inmates, some who recognized the man behind the headlines, hinted at tense encounters, a shouted taunt across the cell block, a cold stare in the mess hall, reminders that fame offered no protection in this new reality. The media frenzy was a beast of its own, relentless and all-consuming. Grainy photos of Diddy in handcuffs splashed across tabloids, court sketches capturing the moment Cassie's testimony pierced the courtroom's silence. Social media erupted in a cacophony of voices. Some cried justice, hailing the arrest as accountability long overdue. Others saw a conspiracy, a high-profile figure targeted for his wealth and fame. Hashtags trended, hashtag Diddy down, hashtag justice for Cassie, while ex-posts dissected every detail, from the jet's flight logs to Cassie's pregnant pause on the stand. His brand, built on aspiration and excess, teetered on the edge of ruin. Each revelation chipped away at the empire he'd spent decades constructing, leading the public to wonder, how deep did this go? The investigation wasn't just about one man. It was peeling back layers of an industry that thrived on secrecy, where wealth and status created a bubble impervious to consequence. Private jets, with their lack of oversight, were the perfect tool for those who operated above the law. No TSA checks, no public passenger lists, no paper trails, just a sleek machine that could whisk its occupants to any corner of the globe, unseen and unquestioned. But this case threatened to change that. If prosecutors could make the allegations stick, it could force a reckoning, not just for Diddy, but for the systems that had allowed such networks to flourish. The question wasn't just who was complicit, it was whether the entertainment industry itself was built on a foundation of exploitation, hidden behind the glamour of private hangars and A-list guest lists. Weeks turned to months, and the investigation showed no signs of slowing. New names emerged, each one a thread in the unraveling tapestry. Lucian Grange, a titan of the music industry, was mentioned in hushed tones, his influence casting a long shadow over the case. Allegations from a separate lawsuit by producer Lil Rod painted a picture of a man known as the Fixer, someone who could make problems vanish, whether through connections at the LAPD or carefully crafted press narratives that turned shootings into drive-bys and scandals into rumors. Stories of tapes, recordings of the freakoffs, allegedly used for blackmail, added a layer of intrigue, suggesting a web of compromise that reached far beyond Diddy's inner circle. Were these tapes real, and if so, who else was captured in their grainy frames? The whispers grew louder, implicating executives, politicians, even other artists who'd attended the gatherings or used the jet's services. Then there was the specter of Kim Porter, Diddy's late ex-wife, whose sudden death from pneumonia in 2018 lingered like an unanswered question. "I'll be sure," her former partner, called for her case to be reopened, his voice thick with conviction. Kim, with a net worth of millions, had the resources to summon doctors or ambulances at a moment's notice. Why hadn't she? The official report cited pneumonia, but the timing, her death coming just as whispers of Diddy's darker dealings began to surface, felt too convenient for some. I'll be sure wasn't alone. A man known only as John Paperwork launched a petition to revisit her case, pointing to inconsistencies in the autopsy, if one had even been conducted. The public suspicion grew, fueled by the memory of a woman who'd been vibrant one day and gone the next. Was it a coincidence, or something more sinister? Theories swirled, some grounded, others spiraling into the realm of conspiracy. Jonathan Oddie, a figure from Diddy's past, emerged with claims that seemed ripped from a fever dream. He spoke of the Boule, a secret society he described as a branch of the Illuminati, a shadowy cabal of black elites pulling strings behind the scenes. His allegations, once dismissed as the ravings of a troubled mind, gained traction as pieces of his story checked out. He'd referenced pink cocaine, a drug cocktail allegedly used at the freakoffs to keep guests in a haze of euphoria and compliance. Months later, Lil Rod's lawsuit echoed the same term, describing a substance laced with MDMA and cocaine that fueled the party's excesses. Oddie's wilder claims, Tupac Shakur alive and hiding in Cuba, a plot to assassinate Trump foretold in an Illuminati card deck, blurred the line between fact and fiction, yet their uncanny alignment with emerging evidence left observers uneasy. What was real? What was orchestrated? And who was pulling the strings? The jet remained the beating heart of the investigation, its luxurious interiors now a haunting reminder of the secrets it may have carried. Investigators pored over its records, chasing leads that spanned continents and decades. A flight to a private island in 2017 aligned with a rumored gathering attended by unnamed moguls. A red-eye to Miami in 2019 coincided with a cryptic text about new talent arriving for a special event. Each discovery raised the stakes, pulling more names into the spotlight, executives who turned a blind eye, pilots who logged questionable manifests, event planners who'd booked venues with no questions asked. The investigation was no longer just about Diddy. It was about a culture that thrived in the fog of wealth and fame, where private jets and private islands were playgrounds for the untouchable. For Diddy, the battle was just beginning. His legal team, a formidable army of high-priced attorneys, worked around the clock to dismantle the case. They challenged the credibility of witnesses, arguing that Cassie's testimony was colored by personal vendettas. They questioned the legitimacy of the jet's records, suggesting clerical errors over criminal intent. They even floated a narrative that Diddy was unaware of any misconduct, a pawn in a larger scheme orchestrated by others. But the evidence was mounting: digital communications, financial trails, and the weight of Cassie's words, delivered with a clarity that cut through the courtroom like a blade. The public's fascination showed no signs of waning, each new headline a spark in a growing wildfire. Exposés dissected every angle, from the jet's flight paths to the symbolism of Diddy's empire, with users debating whether he was a villain or a victim of a system that devoured its own. The case was more than a scandal. It was a mirror held up to an industry, and a society, that had long worshipped wealth and power. Private jets, with their lack of oversight, were the ultimate enablers, offering a controlled environment where rules were negotiable and accountability was a distant concept. But this investigation threatened to rewrite the rules. If prosecutors succeeded, it could set a precedent, forcing greater scrutiny on private aviation and closing loopholes that had allowed exploitation to flourish. The fallout was already rippling outward. Reputations hung in the balance, careers teetered on the edge of ruin, and Diddy's brand, once a beacon of aspiration, risked becoming a cautionary tale. As the months stretched on, the investigation deepened, pulling back the curtain on a world where fame shielded the unthinkable. Whispers of other scandals, buried by money and influence, began to resurface. A 2021 report on celebrity exploitation had documented dozens of similar allegations: private parties, coercive travel, networks of enablers, but none had captured the public's attention like this. Diddy's case was different, not just for its scale, but for its central figure, a man whose billion-dollar legacy was now tethered to accusations that could dismantle it all. The question wasn't just whether he'd fall, but who else might fall with him. Theories about the Boule persisted, fueled by Adi's claims and the eerie crest tattooed across LeBron James's chest, a symbol some linked to the secret society. Were these the ravings of a conspiracy theorist, or was there truth buried in the shadows? The absence of certain names, executives like Christina Kaur, who'd worked closely with Diddy's ventures, raised eyebrows. Why hadn't they been called to testify? Were they protected, or simply uninvolved? And what of the tapes Lil Rod claimed existed, recordings that could expose a network of compromise stretching from Hollywood to Washington? Each question spawned a dozen more, each answer a step deeper into the labyrinth. The jet, once a symbol of freedom, was now a tether to Diddy's unraveling empire. Its gleaming exterior, once a beacon of success, now reflected a different truth, a story of power unchecked, of secrets hidden in plain sight, of lives caught in the crossfire of ambition. As investigators pressed forward, the world watched, breathless, for the next chapter. Was this the end of Diddy's reign, or the beginning of a reckoning that would shake the foundations of an industry? The truth, like the jet itself, remained just out of reach, soaring somewhere in the twilight, waiting to be uncovered.